Right, co-founder of the Budget, Oluseun Onigbinde, joins us in the studio to examine this report. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure being here.
I guess the best place to begin then would be, the criteria used in coming up with these figures of yours in ascertaining the health or otherwise of the states.
We have an index. It's a composite index, but we have index A, B, C, and D. And part of the index A is to compare the operating expenditure, which is what you call recurrent expenditure, to revenue. At the point, we also compare the IGR plus the VAT, which is the taxation size, even though we know VAT is not properly distributed as it should be. And we also look at how can that fund your recurrent expenditure, because we believe that oil revenue should be invested in intergenerational projects like capital projects. But taxes are what you fund salaries and payment of debts and things like that. Then we also now look at your debt servicing costs, and also look at that to your revenue cost size. Finally, we also think the capital expenditure part, even though we know that gets a back seat, we'll put it also on the table as index D. But seeing that chunk is to look at your total revenue as a state and compare that to your recurrent expenditure. That if everything fails, at least you should be able to run as a state, which means pay salaries, run overheads, and pay your debt service costs, and being able to have enough to still run capital expenditure.
All right. How does the physical health of states impact on the economy? And what's the state of their revenue generation, and how can they possibly improve their IGR? I mean, it's one thing to determine a problem or find a problem. It's another thing to give solutions about the problem.
The beauty of our report is that we did not just do the analysis of the data. We gave what we call fiscal options of building back better. So every single state, we had a half a page or a full page for some state, where we clearly illustrated what exactly they can do. I mean, our research lead was speaking about River State, changing this paradigm from being an oil-rich state and changing that to palm oil-rich states. And other states are taking on value-added agriculture, even value-added mining and things like that. And every state in Nigeria is viable, but we have built a system with perverse incentive where everyone relies on the central allocation and nobody's given enough work. And the only way to really raise IGR, one, is to invest in growth. You need to have an economy that grows so that there's distributed opportunity for it to take IGR. Two, invest in formalization of businesses. It takes a lot of overhead to take IGR from informal structures. I mean, people talk about Lagos State IGR being great, but it's because there's no magic in Lagos numbers. Lagos has the largest cluster of corporate offices in Nigeria, so it is easier, and the wealth is there. And third is institution, strengthen institutions much more.
Okay, great. And it's surprising that only 3 states could actually meet their operating expenses with a combination of IGR and VAT. And of course, you know that VAT is a contentious issue right now. If in the event that VAT goes in the way of states, you think there will be an improvement. And then let me mention this. Anambra and Kaduna are on the list of states that have, contributed to 50% of the net year-on-year debt. Yet, both states are on the same list of states that have prioritized, investment in infrastructure by spending more on capital expenditure than operating expenses. Is it a good argument for the fact that debt or borrowing is not bad if it goes into, intergenerational projects like you mentioned earlier?
I mean, it's not bad, but you also have to find a way to keep a balance.
How do you do that?
And decide which kind of project you're funding with debt. For example, if you're putting a lot of funding on social projects, and I think Osun made that mistake, borrowed a lot of money to fund education and health projects. It's incredibly beautiful, it's wonderful. Maybe down the line it will kick in. But it could destabilize your fiscal structure in the short run. And what I advise is take your debt, significant chunk of your debt should go into what we call self-liquidating projects, an infrastructure that expand growth. So if you're funding a road that's going to get access to market for agricultural produce, brilliant. If you're funding if you're putting down fund for a PPP structure, where the private sector is going to put money down, you put money down through there, and you know that investment is going to pay back over time. Because yes, that and creating job opportunities, yeah. But don't just borrow just because there's an opportunity, especially external debt, considering that you don't control the exchange rate factor, and you might be on the bad side if
All right, Sean, before we let you go, it's surprising to me, I must say, that you say Ebonyi State is at the top of the ladder of most physically healthy. Now, what happened to states like Lagos and Rivers? And how many Nigerian states, by the way, out of the 36 can survive without federal allocation?
So firstly, we have 4 indexes, and we did rank him on 4 indexes. And when the state only came first in index A, not on the general index. On the general index, Rivers is first, second followed by Ebonyi, Anambra, and Lagos, and I think Kebbi. So those are the 5 states. Now,
what are they doing right?
What they're doing right is the debt is small, the operating cost is small, the operating budget, which is the recurring budget, is small, relatively. So look at Bayelsa. Bayelsa is last on our state, but Bayelsa has a recurring expenditure that rivals even Rivers State. And for that size of population, a very small state. So in that kind of state, that does not have a significant high GR to even add up its federal allocation. So definitely it will really come down on our index. And that's what we're telling. It's not a long-term view document to say this is where you are, because if Bayelsa takes all its oil revenues, maybe it will be more better than this. But we're saying you need to look at, you might be consuming too much and not giving enough for investment.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Oluseun Onigbinde, Chief Executive Budgit, for being on the program.